see.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the Zoom today, Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, University of Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. Good to see you, Caitlin. How you doing?
Hey Seth, doing all right. We were talking about if it's kind of dragging on a Monday, so if others are feeling that way, they are not alone.
You know, and I've told a couple of superintendents I've had on the show because they're all they're either coming off of spring break or they're on spring break this week, and I mentioned it feels like March can kind of get lumped into that slog of January, February where everything just kind of drags and all the gray and the dreary short days. The weather doesn't really help you much in April. You get teased with spring every few weeks, and then boom, it's back to feeling like February. So. But you hit April 1, and it kind of feels like maybe it's a mad dash to the summer. We'll see, but yeah, feeling the drag a little bit this morning. And
we've got hope. It's coming.
It is coming, no question. And Caitlin, speaking of the drag, one thing that could probably help individuals with maybe overcoming those feelings of tiredness and just general lack of energy is maybe working with a nutritionist and figuring out, hey, is our diet maybe causing some of this, tired energy that we maybe are dealing with consistently. How about that? Let's start there today.
Yeah, so we understand that tiredness and fatigue, it comes from multiple places. So it can be lack of sleep. If you've got a sleep routine that's kind of chaotic, that can of course lead to, feeling tired. It can also be maybe the foods that you're eating. It could be, other things in your environment. But for today, because we are just finishing up March, March is National Nutrition Month. And so it's a great time to talk about what a nutritionist can do for you. So here in the US, we have a lot of titles that run around. So you've got maybe a nutritionist and a dietitian. And so I thought I would kind of kick off, what does all of that mean? And then move into how you can work with someone one-on-one if that's something that you're interested in. So for myself, I'm a registered dietitian. Some people do add that title at the end, nutritionist. So I could be a registered dietitian nutritionist. Because I think most people understand the word nutritionist. They may not understand the word dietitian.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a lot of technical training and background. So we go through college courses at least 4 years, and then we can do additional training for an internship to do that. For someone calling themselves just a nutritionist, they may have some background in that, some knowledge in it. They may have done maybe an online course or two. The training can vary a lot more, so the amount of knowledge that person has can vary a little bit. So I'm always going to be a little biased and say find that dietitian nutritionist to really get dialed in on what your needs are, because they're going to have a lot of background, and if they're not trained in a certain area, they are going to know someone who's going to do that. So for that time together, I know myself, I am one, but I really have benefited from using and working with other nutritionists in that field. So you can do one-on-one appointments. So a lot of times, typically through your medical care team. So you have your primary care provider, maybe at a local hospital or clinic. And if they have a dietitian on staff, that your medical provider can give you a referral. So typically those are clinical positions where they're going to be working with things like heart disease, kidney disease, diabetes, other chronic conditions where diet has a strong piece of that care. And so you're going to be able to get that one-on-one time to really figure out how you eat, what you eat in the certain quantities to get to the goals that you want. So maybe if it's diabetes, it's lowering your blood sugar more consistently. If it's heart disease, maybe it's lowering your cholesterol or your blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
If it is for kidney disease, it's really managing different types of foods so that your kidneys can work depending on what type of other treatments you have going on for your kidneys. And often those are covered by insurance, which is amazing, including Medicare and Medicaid. And if for some reason you had a specialist that you needed to, sometimes you may have to pay out of pocket for that. And so you can kind of look at your budget and see how that might work. Maybe just 1 or 2 appointments is enough to kind of get you moving in the right direction. if you aren't able to continue to pay out of pocket for that. And the nice thing too is a lot of places are going to virtual options, so you can do a telehealth appointment if you can't make it to an in-person visit. So lots of options for doing that. It's a lot like seeing other medical care providers. You just kind of have to kick it off and say, I want to do this, and go do your digging to figure out who is a provider in your area, or even if it's just someone in the state that might accept your insurance, you could do that out of pocket, or not out of pocket. You could do that kind of distance relationship to have that to work with them. So
Yeah.
definitely worth doing if you've got certain health needs or health goals that you want to tackle.
Well, and I wanted to ask, you mentioned finding that person, whether it's researching through your medical care provider, or what your network offers in terms of where they'll cover. How do we find that person that's good for us? And it's like anything else. You want a doctor you connect with. If you're seeking help in whether it's a mental or emotional wellness area, you want that provider you connect with, and there's that just foundational relationship there. How do you find that person, Caitlin? What are good ways to go about that process?
Absolutely, because your care is going to be so much better if you're really connecting with that person, with that dietitian. So I will say for more entrepreneurial style dietitians, so they may do more of the telehealth kind of visits. Often they're going to schedule very short 15, 20-minute introductory calls so that they can get time with you, you get time with them, and you can kind of see if you hit it off, if your goals are going to be something that they can support, and then you can come back and say, yes, I want to work with this person, or you say, maybe that wasn't a good fit, and so you can maybe move on to the next person. If you're in more that clinical setting, so maybe with your local hospital or a local clinic, you may not really have as much of a choice around who the provider is. There may be fewer of them in that setting, so you may go to work with them for that first appointment, and then you get to decide then, is this going to be a good fit or maybe not? But always give it a chance, right? First time, we always like to have the good first impression, but sometimes it takes a little while to get comfortable with someone. So that's not out of the realm of possibility that you may need to go for a couple of appointments and really go, okay, now I'm settling in with this person and it feels good. And they have my best interests in mind.
Yeah, very good. So a lot of things to consider. Now, when you're talking about connecting with a dietitian or a nutritionist, whatever you want to call it, how do we and I guess I don't know, how do we know when to continue on with that, whether it's I've met my goals but I need to check back for it's almost like any sort of other counseling. Like, how do you know what's best for you in terms of how long you should do it and those sorts of things?
That's a great comparison. It is a lot like other types of counseling or coaching. So you will get to a point where you say, I think I feel good. I've met certain goals that I wanted to meet. Maybe my health markers are different. And then that may be something where you can phase out and say, okay, if I've been meeting them every 2 weeks, maybe I go to once a month for a little while. And then you can maybe slowly phase that out. Or if you're someone that's feeling really confident, you might be able to just say, all right, this is my last appointment. But I know every time I finish with providers, they always tell me, and if anything changes, you know where to find me, right? So they are still there. Should you get to 6 months, a year and a half later, and you go, actually, I'm still kind of struggling in this area, to be able to go back to them and say, hey, I want to continue our time together, and I've got a new goal that I want to work on. They hopefully are still there and working, and so you can continue that time, even if after a while you say, I've been done, I'm good. I've been holding my own, I've been doing good, I've been meeting my goals, continuing on that path. But it's been a year maybe or longer, and I'm ready to continue on and try a different goal.
Yeah. Well, and it's probably a lot of learning as you go along, learning what what good nutrition is, and how, certain foods, how your body reacts to certain foods and things like that. Like, it's probably a lot of, experimenting and learning and implementing those lessons into your daily life, and that coach there along the way to give you tips and encouragement, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's really like, and you could look at this from maybe if you work with a personal trainer as well, right? It's that person who's there to support your goals, whether it's mental health counseling, physical therapist for certain injuries, whether it's a personal trainer to meet certain fitness goals. A dietitian is just another tool in your toolbox for a provider to help you meet whatever goals you are needing. And then, yes, as you said, it's all about learning. It's going to be something that you might, in the first 3 months of your appointments, you're meeting certain goals and you say, all right, I'm getting there. And then maybe a year later, your goals have shifted, and that's perfectly okay. And then that way you can move on to try and tackle those goals.
Yep, very good. Well, again, Caitlin, what's the first step for someone that's interested? I think the biggest hurdle, if you don't mind speaking to this a little bit further, I think the biggest hurdle for a lot of folks is, that pay piece, the affordability piece. Like, I just don't know if I can afford it, but I know I need this. How do they explore, like, does my insurance cover this? Is this something that do they need to see their general practitioner or whatever, specialty doctor to maybe get that recommendation? How do they do that? Where do they start that process?
Yeah, it is. It can feel daunting for sure. So I would always start with, if you have insurance, that's a great place to start, is to either visit the website for your insurance provider or to call the number and say, what does my plan cover? So you know and understand what that is. Typically, it's going to be a copay if it's coming through your insurance. So sometimes that copay is a little different than your average copay, maybe to go see your medical team. So that might be good information to know. Is it going to be maybe an extra $10 because it's more of a specialist kind of appointment, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's the exact same as your typical copay. So I always like to start there, go with that. Or if you are looking for someone who's doing a specialist kind of thing. So if you're looking for someone maybe to tackle issues around your gut, and you're having troubles with your gut health, maybe a provider in your medical care system is typically used to working with people with diabetes and heart disease, and so they may not have that kind of training or knowledge, and so you may be looking outside and doing internet searches for that person, and then see if you can find someone in your state and then someone who accepts your insurance, because that's of course going to be much more helpful. And from there, if you want to go through your medical care team, typically your medical provider is going to have to give that referral first, which is typically pretty quick in most of my experiences. So hopefully that's been your experience too.
Very good. Well, Caitlin, just if folks want to, whether it's find information you've put out through the Extension website or any other means or any other resources Extension has, how do they locate those and get a hold of those?
Yes, if you want to see more about what dietitians can do and some of the resources that we provide, we do have several dietitians on our Illinois Extension team. So you can find us at extension.illinois.edu, and you can go to our staff page. So if you have questions for anyone in your area, we typically have some connections to dietitians in the area, even though we don't provide one-on-one time. Find a staff person in your area through Illinois Extension, and we can happily kind of direct you and connect you where you need to go.
That is Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator with the University of Illinois Extension, our guest on the Zoom today. Great stuff from Caitlin, and more to come with her on the morning show.
WHOW.
weeknow.com.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn, beans, and Chicago wheat lower at this hour. May corn down 2 1/4, 462. July corn down 1 1/2, 469 3/4. New crop December 449 1/2, down 1 1/2. May beans down 3 1/4, 1006 1/2. July beans down 3 1/2, 1018. New crop November 1004 1/4. Down 3 1/2. May wheat down 10 1/4, 548. July wheat 564 3/4, down 9 3/4. May bean meal down 220, 298.10. May bean oil down 23 cents, 41.78. Livestock market, March feeders 287.25, up 77 cents. April live cattle up 55 cents, 207.50. April lean hogs down 75 cents, 85.37. Energy market, May crude oil 68.82, up 54 cents. Check up the markets on this Monday morning. Jim Taylor on the RFD Radio Network.
Good morning. I'm Helen McAlassie, and I'm running for mayor of Clinton. Improvement of the city's infrastructure is one of my priorities as mayor. This includes proactive and strategic planning. The design and construction of a new water tower, public safety facility, and city hall will ensure vital services for our community are supported and there when we need them. They're an investment in our future. Clinton is a great city, and when we all work together, we can move Clinton forward together.
Paid for by Michelossi for Mayor.
If the flu's got you down, the Warner Hospital and Health Services Walk-In Clinic inside Family Medicine can help you feel better fast. CEO Paul Skowron inviting you to make us your backup plan to better health. Find out more by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, University of Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. And Caitlin, as we talked this morning, of course, diet and exercise. We talked about maybe getting connected with a nutritionist, a dietitian, whatever you want to call it. And perhaps one of the things they're going to tell you is in addition to getting that food consumption and that nutrition piece, is they're probably going to tell you, all right, so where are you at with your exercise? Let's speak to the importance of complementing that nutrition piece with some exercise. How about those things?
Right. So this is kind of hopefully inspiring warm weather to come sooner rather than later. That we do want to be moving our body. So while food is a good piece, we want to have nutrition in our bodies. We know that other aspects of our health, we talked about a little bit about sleep earlier. So food is a piece of that. Fitness is a piece of that. Stress management is a piece of that. So in terms of exercise, the physical activity guidelines for Americans is recommending certain amounts of time around movement and then including some muscle training. So 150 minutes every week of what's called a moderate intensity aerobic activity. So that's anything where you notice that your heart is going to be pounding or beating a little bit faster than normal. So 150 minutes a week. So about 30 minutes if you wanted to look at, every single day of the week, about 20 minutes, but about 30 minutes, per 5 days in a week, you can move that body. And then 2 of those days, in addition to the 150 minutes, are spent on some type of strength training. Mm-hmm. So that can be lifting hand weights. That could even just be using your body as the weight. So wall push-ups, ground push-ups, or any type of movement where your body is being stressed. You're going to have to use those muscles. So focusing on all parts of the body too. So this is where I think a lot of people hear about, there's leg day and arm day and different muscle groups. So that is a great thing to focus on, would be the arms of the body, the legs, especially as we look at aging and as people get older, we start to lose more muscle mass. And so having this physical activity is really important for maintaining muscle mass. And we know that the organs are also muscles too. Like your heart is one giant muscle. It's squeezing and pumping blood around your body every single day, every second of the hour. And so it's really important that not only are we keeping the body muscles, the arms, the legs, but we're also working the other interior muscles of the body, like the heart, so that we're maintaining that cardiovascular health too. Mm-hmm. And so as we talked about before the break, you can always work with a dietitian to meet your nutrition and food goals. Same thing for fitness. If you are able to find time and activities on your own, awesome. But if you're struggling with that, that's a goal that you want to try and do more of. Having time with a personal trainer might be something to look at so that you can help meet the goals that you're looking for. So whether it's trying to maintain better balance as you age, or if you are a younger person and you have never maybe done a lot of fitness in your life, that can be a great way to kind of kickstart your journey of, all right, what am I going to do? And same thing with finding groups in your community. So if you are someone that is interested in maybe starting running, maybe you want to join a running club. A lot of them will have beginner paces. So you do more of the walk, run, kind of back and forth until you get more endurance. So you can do that more often. Maybe it's finding a yoga class in your area. Maybe it's just you want to start your own little walking group with your coworkers. And so on lunch breaks, you're going to go walk around for 15 minutes. Lots of opportunity to get movement into your day.
Yeah, a couple of things you touched on there was the accountability piece. That's a great one, and longevity. I had a nutrition expert on the show for a long time, and one of his big things was longevity, and doing things now that will allow you, when you get to the point in life where you've got grandkids and those sorts of things, you're able to do the things that they want to do, and horse around and that sort of stuff. So great talking points there. One thing that I wonder, or that I kind of want to connect this to in our next piece here, Caitlin, is for the individual that exercises, and I've fallen trapped to this as well. You think, oh gosh, I worked out Monday, and I worked out Tuesday, and I worked out Wednesday, and it's Thursday, and tomorrow is Friday, and I'm going to have that, that nice meal tonight that may not be super healthy, or I'm going to have that beverage that may not be super healthy, and you're like, the exercise I did canceled out anything I'm going to consume here today. Speak to maybe that mindset, or even it's just a daily thing. I exercise today, so I can have that, that not so good dessert or something like that. Speak to that mindset if you don't mind.
So my personal thoughts are, I discourage like cheat days or having that mindset of, if I have this cupcake, I have to work out so many minutes to burn off this cupcake. I don't want anyone to fall into that belief of your food is only allowed to be eaten if you work it off. That's a really kind of unhealthy way to look at food. So what I encourage is looking at food as the fuel for your fitness. So kind of flipping that as, yes, and sometimes you are going to have that cupcake and the soda, because those are maybe foods that are going to fuel your soul a little more, and your energy, and it's going to be maybe part of just something that makes you a little happy that day. But looking at food as more of the fuel to your fitness. So you can have the food, maybe if you're going to do a really heavy workout, you definitely want to be fueling up before you go into that workout. But if you're just doing the average kind of, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes a day, you probably don't need extra fuel for that, but you can definitely build in ways around making sure that you are fueling enough. So that can be through just normal eating, unless you're doing really, really heavy, intense exercise.
Very good. Very good. Let's wrap it up, Caitlin. I've got about a minute here. Speak to beverages and the things we should be consuming from a liquid perspective. How about that?
Yeah, so we're always going to go back to water, right? This is the big piece. So you're trying to get roughly half of your weight in water every day. So that's a great kind of marker. So I know you've probably seen, I've got a little water bottle I keep on my desk that's pretty big. So I'm just slowly going through that over the day. And then in terms of maintaining your bone health, the fitness activity that we talked about is going to be really helpful for keeping your bone mass really strong. But you need to support that with calcium and vitamin D. So foods, drinks like milk can be a way to get that in. And then if you want to support your gut a little bit more, try some fermented foods, and specifically fermented drinks. So kefir or kefir, depending on how you've heard it, or kombucha have some of these live active bacteria that can be beneficial for the gut. So water, milk, and fermented drinks are going to be great things to hydrate with and support other aspects of your health.
Very good. Caitlin, where do folks go to find all things like nutrition that maybe you've put out there, or just general extension nutrition information?
Yeah, so come visit us online, extension.illinois.edu. If you can find all of the blogs that we've written, there's various media things online. And then locally, come find us at go.illinois.edu/DMP for Do It, Make, and Payette. And you can see all of our upcoming classes. I'm going to be focusing on heart health this year. And so we've got lots of opportunities to connect in the community.
Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, U of I Extension in Logan, DeWitt, Macon, Payette counties. My guest. Network News is now.
The Big 1520 WHOW.